You've been eating cheeseburgers, I see.
Everything is going to hell down here in Texas.
Here's our Triple B and JOEB, and the Triple B, baby, Triple B and JOEB, rock, cock, and Joe rally. Triple B and JOEB, and the Triple B, baby, Triple B and JOEB, rock, cock, and Joe rally. We're coming in, only seeking the truth about JFK. It's a long-coming podcast crew. Tell 'em, Joe, here we go.
And here we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 352 of the Lone Gunman Podcast, Hard Targets. And just from perusing the comments, I see some people got the inference. So very good. Good job, Paul. Thank you. Thank you. It is a little bit of a pun, if you will. Before we get started, Joe, a couple things. I believe we discussed it a little bit on the Wednesday show for members, but I too just got a care package from my buddy Jeff at Silk City Hot Sauce. And I have in my hot little hands a bottle of King's Karma smoked maple habanero hot sauce.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I cannot wait to put this in my mouth.
It's hot, bro. Watch out.
I got to wait till I have something to put it on. I really just want to try it.
Okay. Well, as irony would have it, your boy also has it right next to him. And check what I made this morning, Rob. Because you know I like my breakfast sandwiches.
Yes.
You know, the yolk hanging out of it. I love the maple habanero. This was the old Dahlia one on the left, which I'm using. But the King's Karma is the new label of that, which we were speculating on. And you can see it kind of flowing out of the top of the bagel there. Oof.
Oh, yeah.
It is good, man. It is good. So use code Gunman for 20% off your hot sauce order. I think I got it right that time.
I think he's got some bundles over there, or you can make your own bundle. The link is in the description to this very video right here to order you up some.
Yeah.
How I suggest you do it.
Yeah.
And another couple things we were able to share with our members only. First, there's some new merch in the store, Joe.
I heard.
We have the new Jefferson Morley t-shirt. Morley's, home of the Nothing Burger. Hopefully some of you wear proudly in Dallas this year. And we also have, you know, as sometimes we're prone to tell people, we have the fuck off shirt.
Fuck off. Fuck off.
Fuck off.
Oh.
Yeah. And there's one I didn't tell you about, and we didn't show it on Wednesday night.
Oh, you've been busy.
I have been. It is actually a new Ruby design.
Ooh.
You ready for this?
Is it with Kitty?
No.
Ooh. Ooh.
Hashtag grab the damn dog.
That is really good. That is really good. And yes, Rob says grab the damn dog as we play the outro music.
Since you can't hear me call her anymore, I have to verbally tell Joe to grab the damn dog.
Yes.
Yes.
But that is great, man.
All those designs are fresh up and new over in the store. If you'd like to grab you one and support the show, link is in the description as per the usual. Joe.
That is awesome. I love it.
So, Joe, welcome some folks in, if you will, please.
Sure. Mr. Trey is present.
What's up, Trey?
Sally is here. How are you, Sally?
Sally. Hello,
Long time no talk.
no, we do not need a fairy's hot sauce.
Yeah, you don't want to boof that one.
That shit would be flying everywhere.
Oof. Although it would be a good hot sauce, a good guy hot sauce.
It would definitely be good.
The double B is here. How are you? I think you already said hi to Paul. Mr. Scott Edwards. Replenish. I think he meant, pun intended, in my free Ruby. Oh,
nice.
Resplendent in my free Ruby t-shirt.
Don't use these big words. Joe has no idea what they mean.
No. I don't know what that word means.
Or he can barely say them.
Yeah. South to West. How are you, sir? Tiny, one is ready. She is here. Let's see the timestamp on Tiny.
Tiny.
7:01:26. Okay. I'll accept that, Tiny.
All that close enough.
Mr. Paul Lanici, how are you, sir?
Paul.
Mr. Jack Taylor, how are you?
Jack, what's up, buddy?
We were messaging yesterday in regards to the Epstein drama and what a shit show that is. Anthony Thripp, how are you, sir? General Walker, the ultimate macho man turned anti-hero gay icon. It is ironic, right? Such a far right figure would be gay. And
probably one of the most powerful power bottoms ever to come out of this country.
And Rob, the double B coming in strong at the beginning, gifting 5 spook level memberships.
Wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. Who got them, Joe?
NK got one. I think he got one before. Richard Seep got one. DD Robert. Corey Canada. Maybe he joined our live stream after.
Hey, we have frowned upon in Canada shirts as well in our merch shop. As we are.
I was going to say after the not frowned upon in Canada episode. And oh man, here we go. Colonello Valerio.
Or Valerio.
Yes. So thank you, the double B. You are the man.
Yes, thank you, Brandon. Killing it, man. And I also saw our buddy Lee Ralph upped his membership recently.
Yeah.
So thank you, Lee. The bloody Benders.
Yeah. Great guy.
And I think there was one other, and I don't want to forget it. That's why I'm fastly looking it up right now.
Hello, Moose Heaven and Timothy Ryan. What's up, guys? And
yes, Deco 39 rejoined.
Nice.
And then, of course, Lee Hell comes to play the bloody Benders.
Yeah.
Timothy Ryan, what's up?
What up? So yeah, we the chat is popping, and I guess we may as well get started and stop yapping like 6 barbers.
This episode is going to get popping here in a second. Oh, all right, Joe. So in doing some research for this topic, I went perusing through some books to see what I could find. And I came upon this book that I had not read before. I have it as a PDF book, but I hadn't actually cracked it open and looked at it. Now, I've heard the name before. It's called Secrets from the Sixth Floor Window by Connie Kritzberg. Okay. She was a Dallas Times Herald reporter in 1963.
Okay.
So she lived in Dallas her whole life. She I think at one point lived like either across from H.L. Hunt or down the street from H.L. Hunt.
Secrets from.
And so I've heard some things about her. So I decided, okay, well, let's see what she has to say about this intriguing topic here that we're going to be covering tonight.
Yes. Crack it open.
So I was reading part of her chapter 20, and it's called Deep D.
As in Dallas.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
I reckon. I mean, and it starts off talking about Peter Gregory and Marina, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then goes on to mention our buddy James Herbert Martin.
Oh, really?
Really? So
what does she say about the gentleman, Mr. James?
I figure we start off with this because it's a little interesting, shall we say. Because Peter Gregory is the guy who was basically acting as Marina's translator early on, right? And according to Connie, she says that Marina's earliest testimony was distorted in translation by Peter Gregory, who took even more steps leading to her control. Gregory's distortion in regard to the description of Oswald's rifle was to supply the baseless story already reported by Gregory's friend Mamantov of Oswald's dark and scopeless rifle. The discrepancies, while few, changed her description of an ordinary rifle to the description in the quoted sentence. Gregory was on to say that he assumed responsibility for delivering Marina into the hands of the Great Southwest Corporation, a real estate venture controlled in Dallas by the wealthy family of Bedford Wynne. Now, Wynne is the Wynne, right? The big hotel chain, the Wynne, big in Vegas. Well, apparently they started out in Texas. So I'm like, well, okay, well, who the hell is the Great Southwest Corporation? Well, I'll tell you, Joe.
Please do.
The Six Flags Inn was owned by the Great Southwest Corporation. So it goes on to say here, James Herbert Martin, a Great Southwest employee, became Marina's first manager. When he was fired, William McKenzie, a lawyer from the Wynne family, which represented Great Southwest, became Marina's lawyer. Both men, along with other employees of Great Southwest, were responsible for highly questionable links between powerful Murchison oil and construction interests in Texas. Further, Bedford Wynne was the subject of critical audit regarding his salary from Sweetwater Development, which was set up by the Murchison's Techcon Corporation through the firm of Wynne, Jaff, and Tinsley. And it goes on to talk about how this Wynne guy was part of the Bobby Baker set in Washington, all these other connections. All this was ignored by the Warren Commission was how Peter Gregory had the power to make phone calls, which led to Marina's stay at the Great Southwest Hotel. Also unasked is how Gregory was selected as Marina's interpreter on November 23rd. Now, through the course of our investigation into James Herbert Martin, we know that it was not Peter Gregory who orchestrated Marina's stay at the hotel. It was actually James Herbert Martin that reached out and did it on his own, unless Peter Gregory has some kind of pull over James Herbert Martin that we don't know about.
Yeah, didn't he reach out to the Fort Worth sheriff or something?
It wasn't Fort Worth. It was some other sheriff, but yeah.
Okay.
Now, another interesting thing is that in Larry Crayford's notebook or phone book, Okay. And Larry Crayford, of course, was the guy who was staying at Jack Ruby's Carousel Club, helping him out with the business there, being his little lackey, his little gopher, and the guy responsible for a lot of these Oswald and Ruby sightings together, because the guy was a young guy and he kind of resembled Oswald, but not really, but at a distance, maybe, kind of thing. Larry Crayford had William McKenzie's new telephone number in his notebook.
Interesting. Not quite sure what to make of that.
I don't either. But it seemed to me like this William McKenzie guy, this highfalutin lawyer for these big swinging dick oil guys, probably couldn't afford a lawyer like William McKenzie.
Not at all.
If I'm being honest.
No, I don't think he could have afforded any lawyer.
I don't even think Jack Ruby could have afforded William McKenzie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's see.
And I think Gregory translated for her at the Warren Commission. And I think, it might have been a bonus episode on Solving JFK recently, talking about Marina's last interview. And she alluded to something like that, saying that the translation wasn't accurate. Whatever last TV show she went on, I don't know if it was the 90s or so. She says, I didn't actually say that.
Yeah.
And I think Gregory or his son was a translator in a lot of those situations. So, interesting.
Another interesting thing that Crayford had in his notebook was the name Pete White. Okay.
Pete White.
He was a former district attorney in Dallas. And this guy got a pistol carrying charge dismissed against Jack Ruby. And White also ran into Ruby on November 20th, 1964. Larry Schmidt, often
64, 63.
I don't know. It's footnoted, but I did not print it out.
Got it. Had to have been 63 because he would have been in jail in 64.
Yeah, possibly. Larry Schmidt, often written about as an out of Dallas entrepreneur who helped organize the black bordered ad, which appeared in the Dallas Morning News on November 22nd, had help from General Edwin Walker, who could have hardly been an unknown to any Dallasite at the time. The only person in Schmidt's group who was indicted on criminal charges related to the ad was a man named Robert Hatfield. This guy, Robert Hatfield, hired Pete White to represent him. Schmidt's cabal, CUSA, Conservatism USA, included the local chapter of the right-wing Young Americans for Freedom, which included Warren Carroll, described by Schmidt as a scriptwriter for H.L. Hunt's right-wing radio show.
Okay.
So we learned here that Schmidt's CUSA member in charge of public relations and Art Franzenswald was at the Bedford Wynn PR agency. So all these extreme right-wingers are somewhat interconnected somehow. Yes. The weird thing is, why does Larry Crayford have Marina's lawyer's number in his book? That's a little odd.
Seems above his pay grade.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, like a former carny, right?
Yeah. And by the way, the night that before the assassination, when Jack Ruby was at the hotel, the Cabana, they were having a little shindig there, right? Well, Connie Kritzberg was there.
Really?
Yeah. And saw Jack Ruby there. She has a picture taken with one of these Vegas lounge singer act type dudes, like Frankie Valli. Or it's not Frankie Valli, but it's
right. Someone of the sort. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Huh.
In her book, there's a picture of her with this guy at the Cabana the night before the assassination.
Wow.
So she was like a Dallas socialite that was, kind of weaving in and out of things. And I believe her complete story is that, because I've not read the book in its entirety, but I believe there's something like she wanted to write a story about some aspect of the assassination and they wouldn't let her. Or she did, she turned it in and then they shit canned it without telling her and didn't run it. It was something weird like that.
Oh, right. That was a newspaper article for the Dallas Morning News.
No, for the Times Herald. That's
Okay. But yes, that story does ring a bell.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the same woman. Interesting.
Yeah. So,
what's she doing there? Tim Ryan says. That's a good question. I was thinking the same.
Dressed very nicely for a night out. I don't know.
She's a socialite,
Yeah, she was trying to get some D, some deep D. So now that brings us to something I found in the book Reasonable Doubt by Henry Hurt. And Henry Hurt used to be the editor for Reader's Digest magazine, so he does have some legitimate bona fides as far as being legitimate, and not some National Enquirer type, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when he was writing his book, he tried to interview as many of the players as possible. And we've talked about him before, because it's a very good book for the time, early 80s. But the interesting thing about Warren Reynolds, so let's get to this real quick. So Warren Reynolds, at the time of the Tippit shooting, was working at his brother's car lot on Jefferson Street, like around the corner. And he said they were listening to the radio and they were listening to news about the president had just been shot. And then all of a sudden they hear gunshots out the window. And apparently he's upstairs in this car lot. So there was a couple of other people working at the car lot. We'll get to them here in a second. Who saw the shooter running away. And Warren Reynolds tried to follow the shooter, but the shooter ended up losing him. After they went around a corner, he lost him. Now, the other people that heard the shots went to the scene of the Tippit murder. And, they were trying to help out there. But Warren Reynolds tried to follow the shooter, whoever it was. If it was Oswald, it was Oswald. But he lost him. Interestingly enough, nobody talked to this guy for 2 months.
Yeah, till like January or something, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't even the Dallas police that talked to this guy. It was the FBI. So they went and talked to him, I think, on January 21st. And they showed him some pictures. And he said, that he thought that, the guy he saw was Oswald, but he wasn't 100% sure. He couldn't say for sure. Well, 2 days later, after the FBI talks to him, he ends up getting shot in the head while he's closing the car lot down one night. Now, apparently it wasn't a very bad shot. The way he describes it, which we'll see here in a second, is he says it went in his temple and came out like his cheek. Or it got lodged here and they were able to remove it. Like right here. I don't know. I mean, he got lucky. I don't know. But then after that, and after speaking to a man that would quickly become a mentor for Warren Reynolds, and that man would be General Edwin Walker. Walker was being called before the Warren Commission, and at Walker's urging, he urged Warren Reynolds to reach out to the commission to take his testimony, because what he had to say he thought was important, because now he was sure that the man that he saw was Lee Harvey Oswald running away from the scene of the Tippit shooting. So in internal memos for the Warren Commission, they said, look, this guy wants us to interview him. Given what he's saying, we should probably go ahead and interview him. Let's set him up, bring him in, blah, 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 blah. So that's how he got heard. And that's why we have his testimony in there. So let's see. We're going to watch a little video here, Joe.
Nice.
Of Warren Reynolds.
Nice. I was hoping you had that. I had it queued in case you didn't. But Slacker Dan, howdy, friends. We thank you for re-upping in the beginning of the show. Good.
No, we didn't. But that's okay.
Oh, that was Lee. I'm sorry. I think he is a spoof though. But how are you, sir? But this is a good video.
Yep. So here we go. This is Warren Reynolds being interviewed by the local news channel. Here we go.
And when he got to the corner there, well, he put the gun in his belt like this, and then he walked up the street.
And what did you do?
Well, I ran out to where I was even with him, and then I walked on the opposite side of the street, even with him. When he got to the service station, he went behind it, and I ran over and went behind it too, but I couldn't find him. I looked in the cars, under the cars, and I couldn't find him.
Were you actually trying to catch him or just keep up with him?
Just keep up with him.
And what happened then?
Evidently he got away and the police came, and I went on back to work. Well, when I walked in, I went to turn these lights off. I turned these first two switches before a man shot me that was hidden right behind me. And then I ran out of the building.
Did you get a look at the man?
Not a good look.
Did you see him to be able to tell anything about him?
No, sir.
So that is that.
Yeah. And the thing that sticks out to me about that, Rob, is he said the guy was hiding, like in wait, right?
Yeah.
That would mean it's pre-planned, right? It's not you're leaving on, you're leaving the garage and some scafuza shoot you in the street randomly. The way he described it seems like it's someone was planning this.
Yeah, but it's weird. If he's shot in the temple and it's lodged down here, it would seem to me like that the gun needs to be way the hell up here pointed down in order for that to happen, unless it went bang, bang, boom and bounced around and shit. It was a 22.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it ricocheted inside his face or something. I don't know. It's a weird angle anyway.
Well, Rob, what you brought up a really good point a few weeks ago when we were talking about ballistics and how maybe some of the bullets weren't fully made correctly with the right amount of ammo, right? I mean, you're thinking a 22 to the head, close range, you're done. Maybe it was one of those bullets that was a dud or didn't have enough powder to. I don't know.
Normally a 22 is just going to rattle around inside your skull. It's not going to, it just doesn't have enough power to do much. but from close range like that, who knows? You know.
Yeah.
Now, there are some odd discrepancies about Warren Reynolds' story. And we'll get into them here. So when Reynolds heard the shots, he went out onto a porch and looked in that direction. He saw a man running towards him, stuffing a pistol under his belt, like he just told us. Hoping to be of assistance to the police, Reynolds rushed down to the street and followed the gunman. He lost him after about a block when the gunman ducked behind a building. Reynolds did not at that time know what the shooting was about. He had assumed it was some kind of domestic dispute. His aim was to be able to help the police. Later, when it turned out the shooting was linked to the assassination of Kennedy, Reynolds' Oak Cliff section of town was invaded by the press, and Reynolds openly gave interviews and made no secret of what he had seen. Indeed, he might have been the best available witness for identifying the fleeing gunman. However, 2 months passed before any official investigative agency asked him a single question. It was January 21st when the FBI agents finally went to see him, showed him a photograph of Oswald, and asked if Oswald was the fleeing gunman. The FBI report stated that Reynolds said he was of the opinion the man was Oswald, but stated that he could not definitely identify Oswald as the individual. 2 days later, he's shot in the temple, the bullet passing through much of his head. Miraculously, he survived and was able to testify before the Warren Commission 6 months later. With the passage of time, his memory had suddenly improved. He was certain beyond the slightest doubt that the man he saw fleeing the Tippit scene was Lee Harvey Oswald. At least that's what he told the Warren Commission after speaking at length multiple times to General Edwin Walker. Whether Reynolds' earlier testimony was connected to the attempt on his life is not known. Reynolds believes that it was, and the case has never been solved. Now, one of our favorite characters in the world, Dago, was accused of this crime because our boy, Daryl Wayne Garner, was, let's just say, one of the seedier characters in town. And a couple days prior to this, apparently he had tried to sell a car to them that was stolen, that he didn't have the right paperwork for, and they refused to buy it from him. So they figured, that could possibly be a motive for him to do this. But he was given an alibi by a Nancy Jane Mooney. Said, "Oh no, he was dicking me down all night long. He was nowhere near that Johnny Walker car lot or Johnny Reynolds car lot." And then, of course, the funny thing is, a couple weeks later, suddenly Nancy Mooney is arrested for a domestic dispute with her roommate, taken to jail, and she hangs herself after being in jail for an hour by her jeans. As if a domestic squabble is so bad you need to kill yourself in jail.
Yeah.
But apparently she had tried to unalive herself at least 3 other times via different methods, but was unsuccessful. Apparently she had 4 kids at the age of 20, by the age of 24, that she didn't have custody of any of them. So maybe her life was in shambles or was so bad that she wanted to do what she did. It still seems a little suspect to me.
Yeah.
Now there's a footnote in Henry Hurt's book, because this is the only guy that I could find, other than the other video we're going to watch here in a second, to ever, and if you want to call this a successful try, to interview Warren Reynolds. It says here, in 1983, the author sought out Reynolds, who simply smiled and refused to discuss any aspect of the matter when asked. He wouldn't even talk to Henry Hurt. So I gave him the old FU, apparently. Don't know what that's about. Let's see.
James said she got Epsteined.
You got something. Now Reynolds says here's part of where we kind of go off the rails with the Warren Reynolds story. So Reynolds testified to the Warren Commission that he said, I know this man was waiting for 3.5 hours in the basement where I work. And when I went down to turn off the lights in the basement where he had taken the light globe out of the room, I went in there more or less in the dark to turn off the light. It is a switchboard. And when I walked up to it and turned 2 switches, this man couldn't hardly have been over a foot from me with the rifle, and he shot me. When he shot me, I ran upstairs. I went around to the right about 20 feet and got a towel to stop the blood. And when I turned around to go call police, I had assumed all the time that I had been electrocuted or something for some silly reason, never dreaming that I had been shot. But when I saw the man run off, I figured right there I must have been shot. So I ran on in and I called the police. Now, it does ask some pertinent questions here. How could a potential assassin enter a basement of a company and just sit down there for 3.5 hours? And how did Warren Reynolds know that the assailant had been down there for 3.5 hours?
That was my question. How did he know that? 3.5 is a specific time. Why don't you say 3 or 4?
Yeah. And then the other question is, why did Reynolds go downstairs in the dark to turn off a light that wasn't on?
Right. Yeah. The guy, he said that like he unscrewed the bulb for,
Right.
and right.
So why is Reynolds going in the basement to turn off a light that isn't on?
Does make sense.
That's weird, right? And another question, why would somebody try to commit a murder with a rifle at a distance of 1 foot? It would make a very loud noise, attract a lot of attention, and it's not the easiest thing to hide going in or out, especially getting away.
Yeah. Ideally, you would use a handgun. Right.
Yeah. And the way he termed it was Reynolds said he survived by being shot, not shot in the head, but through the head. I don't know. Now, we saw the video clip, right, where he said that he didn't get a good look at the person that did that, right? That's what he said. Yet, he managed to describe the person as this. Around 5'4", which would stand out because that's pretty damn short.
That's really short. Even
Weight
for them.
Around 130 to 140, was either Spanish or Cuban or Indian, but not Negro. Now, that's a lot of information for somebody that you didn't see. That's some very specific information. I mean, it certainly disqualifies Dago from being the alleged shooter. But it does put someone of possible Cuban or Latin extraction as being the possible gunman. And for what reason? This is, of course, after talking to General Walker that he came up with this description. So there's that. So yeah, we talked about The whole Nancy Mooney thing. Okay. Nobody, not the FBI, the Dallas police, or the Warren Commission thought there was anything strange about the shooting of Warren Reynolds or the hanging of Betty Mooney McDonald in the Dallas jail. Here was a clear-cut link to the murder of Tippit, and nobody cared. Let's see. Talks about Dago Garner. And apparently there was some confusion by Sylvia Marr, of all people, who normally doesn't make these kind of mistakes, but she mixed up a Betty McDonald with Betty Mooney McDonald, which is important because Betty Florence, whose real name was Florence McDonald, was actually at the Magnolia party that Ruth Payne and Michael Payne met the Oswalds at, and George DeMorchio was there.
Oh.
So it was kind of highfalutin, definitely out of the league of a stripper, okay, with 4 kids and I'm sure not very nice teeth to be at. But Sylvia Marr made that mistake. So that's not good. Yeah. Betty's actual name was Florence. She was the McDonald about whom George DeMorchio testified that the name was familiar to him and that she was at the 1963 party given by Mrs. Everett Glover that the Oswalds attended with the DeMorchios. Florence McDonald was a librarian at Magnolia Oil, a subsidiary of Mobil Oil Company. The account given by Ruth Payne says that she saw McDonald at a meeting. Ruby had 2 McDonalds stripping for him, a Betty Mooney McDonald, also known as Nancy Jane Mooney, and Joyce McDonald, otherwise known as Joy Dale. But these appear to be different women, and this has confused researchers for years, like Joe.
So did the girl that hung herself in the jail cell, was she the actual stripper did she actually work for Jack Ruby? Because I read earlier in preparation for this episode that it was confused and she wasn't.
No, it was.
It was, okay. Yes.
That we know. Here's where it gets confusing. Okay, so apparently there is a Dallas Municipal Archives and Records Center that has a listing of names of all the AGVA employees, which is the Actors Guild and Variety or something
association or something,
right?
Yeah.
And they have a listing in the Dallas Municipal Archives for Marilyn Moon, 24 years old, divorced with 1 child, with the name of Miranda, and also her name, she danced under the name Delilah, in parentheses, but no other name for a McDonald or a MacDonald. The police list her name spelled differently. It's Marlon Moon or Marilyn Miranda of 3120 Healy in Dallas. Joy Dale also has a card, but no real name. 1 week after she alibied Garner, Betty was incarcerated for fighting with Patsy Swope Moore, her roommate, and for reasons best understood by Dallas police, Moore was never arrested, but McDonald promptly hung herself in jail. The FBI was not told about this, even though they were still investigating the deaths of Oswald, Tippit, and Kennedy. Now, all this comes and stems from a national news story that was written about this whole thing by a guy named Bob Considine, who was a big swinging dick reporter from New York. And when he found out about this whole Warren Reynolds Daryl Garner, Nancy Mooney story. He wrote a national story about it, which is basically what pushed the Warren Commission over the edge in, in bringing Warren Reynolds in and talking to him. The Warren report found there was no connection between the bullet Reynolds received in the head and the assassination of Kennedy or the murder of Tippit. Reynolds thought that was bullshit. He told Mac Pate, who knew him well, that he was certain that he had been shot because of his failure to identify Oswald, and that he had now changed his mind, and that it was impossible to tell, that it was impossible to tell who it was. He was too far away, and I was the closest of the witnesses. Reynolds also stated that the person who had shot him in the head appeared to be Cuban. So basically, he's telling a close friend of his that he really couldn't identify Oswald. Okay. But that from everything everybody's telling him, it had to be Oswald. So after being shot in the head, he changed what he was telling people. So it was definitely Oswald. Because he thought that that's possibly why he was shot at.
Yeah. Could I ask you a question? Because I was thinking about this earlier today.
What's that?
You know, the Tippit witnesses, right? They're a mess, right? Just look at Helen Markham and I mean everyone. You can go down the list. Do you think that Reynolds' account would have been so damning to risk, say, killing him over this change of minor story? You know, change of story. That's what I was thinking of today. I don't know the answer. I was just on your thoughts.
I mean, there's many witnesses who said it was Oswald. There's many witnesses who said they couldn't tell who it was. There's even some that said there was two people, or gave a different description of the shooter than Oswald.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to another Tippit witness named Domingo Benavides, whose brother was killed, I believe I think it was in January 1964. No. Yeah. And he thought that because they kind of looked alike, so he had thought that it was meant for him, you know, because of what he saw, right? But there is an interesting connection between Warren Reynolds and Domingo Benavides, actually. Reynolds was close to members of the Benavides family. Domingo Benavides' sister gave Reynolds' business address as her residence when she applied for a marriage license in June of 1963. And no, she did not work there at the time. So Warren Reynolds and Domingo Benavides' sister apparently were close friends and put the Johnny Reynolds car lot as her home residence when she applied for a marriage license in June of 1963. Domingo Benavides worked directly across the street from the Reynolds used car lot. It is likely that the identity of his assailant as a Cuban was suggested to Reynolds by Domingo or some member of the family, as Bill Pulte suggested. But if the Cubans on Harlandale had killed Tippit, they would kill the witnesses. Of course, who knows, you know? Now, here's the funny thing. So remember when I told you that Warren Reynolds was the only guy to run after Tippit's killer, and that the other employees ran to the scene of the Tippit shooting? Well, one of the guys who ran to the scene of the Tippit shooting was a guy named Harold Russell. And he worked at Johnny Reynolds' car lot. And he ran to the scene of the Tippit shooting when they heard shots.
Right. Johnny Reynolds being Warren Reynolds' brother, I guess, the official owner of the car lot.
Both men saw the killer running away with a gun in his hand, but didn't think it was Oswald at the time when they saw Oswald's pictures. Russell was beaten to death by police in Oklahoma in 1967. One report said that he was killed by a policeman with a revolver on July 23rd, 1965, in Sulphur, Oklahoma, where Mr. Willis Price saw Oswald with Cubans the weekend before the assassination.
Like he cold cocked him with the butt of the pistol and beat him to death.
Yeah, he Bannister pistol whipped Jack Martin.
Got it. Oof.
But that's a little odd, right?
Very.
And oh, by the way, Connie Kritzberg, the chick who wrote the book, one of her co-workers was Jim Cothy, one of the guys who was at Ruby's apartment the night, and he was killed by police. I can't remember if he was shot by the police or he was the karate chop victim. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it might have been the karate chop guy, and you're talking about the meeting of the people at Ruby's apartment on November 24th.
Yeah, so this guy Russell was either killed in 65 or 67. There's two different reports. And apparently there was a report or something where the FBI took information from a Mr. Willis Price, who said he witnessed Oswald with Cubans the weekend before the assassination in Oklahoma, which it's a hard sell, right? I don't know how much of that you believe.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Oklahoma, because when we get into William Duff, he fled to Oklahoma.
Yeah, so did Thomas Beckham.
Interesting. Hey, PSV Odyssey, how are you? Driving and listening. That works too.
Hell yeah. Sorry, I'm getting through this.
It's okay.
Parts because there's not much to the Warren Reynolds story, and a lot of it gets repeated and repeated and repeated again.
Right.
And much of it is the same. So here's an interesting FBI report I found from March 19th, 64. And guess who it is written by, Joe? It's a special agent.
In March of 64?
Yeah. And somebody who
in Dallas?
Yeah, who's somebody who shouldn't be in Dallas in March of 64. Unless
DeBreeze?
No.
Kennedy? Regis Kennedy?
Uh-uh.
Oh.
The guy who went to talk to Oswald after his arrest for the street fracas. Agent Quigley.
Oh.
So what is Agent Quigley doing in Dallas investigating Warren Reynolds in March of 64? So it says Captain O.A. Jones of the Forgery Bureau, Dallas Police Department, made available the following information. On January 23rd at 9:15 p.m., Warren Reynolds, an employee of the Johnny Reynolds Motor Company, after pulling the keys out of all the cars and locking them, walked down to the office basement to turn out all the lights. Okay. So maybe he did go down there to turn off all the lights of the car lot, but the light in the fixture down there was unscrewed. So that makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
Than just having to walk down there and turn a light off. He flipped the light switch at the door of the basement. However, the basement remained dark. Thinking the light was burned out, he proceeded downstairs to the basement fuse box. As he reached for the fuse box, he was shot in the head with a .22 caliber weapon. Reynolds, not knowing if he'd received an electrical shock or had been shot, started up the stairway. And at this point, an unknown small white male carrying a rifle ran past him on the stairs. Reynolds proceeded out of the building, fell over the hood of a vehicle near the office door, and then entered the office, tried to use the telephone, and fell over a couch. Sonny Carty, a guy that lived at 425 East Jefferson, apartment 5, was watching television when he heard a shot coming from the direction of the Reynolds Motor Company. He ran down the hall to the balcony and observed in the bright light of the motor company car lot a white male, 5'5", wearing brown khaki trousers, a blue flowered shirt, carrying a rifle, run out the rear of the car lot and then south in the 200 block of South Patton. Now, if Warren Reynolds had turned the lights out on a switch, then there shouldn't have been a bright light of the motor company car lot. But okay.
Blue flowered shirt. Interesting choice of.
Well, we go from a 5'3", or I'm sorry, a 5'4", dark-skinned Latino or Cuban, but not Negro. And all of a sudden now this guy's wearing a khaki trousers and a blue flowered shirt. So Cardi then saw Reynolds staggering up to the office and then observed a white compact car believed to be a Plymouth Valiant containing 2 men and a woman in the front seat in front of the car lot. Cardi raced down the hall and down the stairs, by which time the vehicle was gone already. He ran over to assist Reynolds, who advised Cardi he did not know what had happened. A Mrs. Christine Jeffries in apartment 101 at 429 East 12th Street advised she had just walked out to known about 5'6". So this guy's growing like an inch by every time somebody sees him. Running down the street towards her from the direction of the Reynolds Motor Company car lot, waving a rifle.
Mm-hmm.
The man ran down an alley and disappeared from her sight. Investigating police officers located Reynolds' broken glasses and a .22 rifle bullet on the floor of the Reynolds Motor Company basement and a blood trail leading over the route traveled by Reynolds to the couch. Also was determined that Reynolds was not robbed of anything. L.J. Lewis of Hume, a salesman at Reynolds Motor Company, advised the light bulb had been screwed out.
Can I stop you for a second? I just want to talk about what you just said. What was that, Lady Caroline something? She said she saw someone 5'6", right? But Reynolds described him as 5'4". Those are estimations. And if she said she saw this guy running with a rifle, which we had just discussed, would have been much more efficient with a handgun, that kind of lends some credence to Reynolds's, description of events. No.
Well, they could tell by the bullet it was from a rifle.
Right, but she says she saw this guy who's pretty short, 5'6", 4'4", or 5'4". Like her estimation could be an inch or two off. That's not
right. Yeah,
6'2", right?
He's definitely short.
Right, but that's kind of like corroborating in a sense, no? With a rifle and a short.
The guy that came to get him. The only thing that's differing is, Warren Reynolds thinks he was a dark-skinned Cuban type. McCarty, who came to help him, says it was a white guy, 5'5". And Christine just says it was a small male, race unknown.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So L.J. Lewis, who was another salesman at the Reynolds Motor Company, advised that the light bulb had been screwed out the night before the shooting. I guess he noticed it, but didn't fix it. January 23rd, Johnny Reynolds of West 5 Mile Parkway, brother of Warren, advised he was at home at the time of the shooting and that Warren usually closed a lot at night. On January 24th, Daryl Wayne Garner, also known as Dago, of 1006 North Bishop, a white male, aged 24, born January 1st, 1940, 5'8", Joe, 5'8", was arrested at Topper's Cafe, 315 East Jefferson, and charged with investigation, assault to murder, and drunk and disorderly. Garner had been talking about how sorry the Reynolds brothers were and that Warren Reynolds had received what he deserved. Garner had been at the Reynolds Motor Company lot on Monday, January 20th, attempting to sell a 1957 Oldsmobile for which he did not have the title, and became extremely upset when the Reynoldses would not purchase the vehicle. The day after the shooting, January 24th, Joe, an anonymous telephone caller advised Johnny Reynolds on the phone to go see Dago and then hung up.
So that would possibly indicate that it was not related to being a witness in the Tippit murder. It would be argument over a car, no?
Supposedly.
Right, what that just alludes to. Got it.
I mean, if you're really conspiratorial, you could say, well, from our illustrious interviews that we've done with Dago and his ties to both Jack Ruby and Oswald, what is he really doing here? Who knows?
Right.
It's all a little sketchy, but it sounds like something he would do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially if he's out riding around drunk with a couple of his friends and a couple of his biatches. Hey, let's go scare the shit out of Warren Reynolds. Give me that rifle. Watch this. Pew! They probably didn't even shoot at him. They probably just shot it and it ricocheted, something hit him in the head. Yeah. And then they got scared and ran up out of the, this guy's passing Warren Reynolds on the stairs to get the hell out of the basement and running away with a rifle. Well, it doesn't sound to me like it was a legitimate attack, if you will. It sounds to me like they were just trying to scare the shit out of him. You know what I mean? And it went horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And it could have went horribly worse, but
Yeah. No, I mean, ricochet makes sense to me. It's whatever.
Yeah, especially when the angles we're talking about. It was determined that Garner owned a 61 white Ford Falcon, which looks a lot like a Plymouth Valiant, which was also white, seen at the scene while he was in the process of purchasing from a Weldon McGowan of 619 North Winnetka. A Mrs. Dahlia Garner, mother of Daryl, advised Daryl does not generally reside at her house and is presently living in his car. Excuse me. Mrs. Garner stated Daryl was a mentally unstable person, and she did not desire to have him hanging around and influencing her other boys, Ricky, age 16, and Ernie, age 19. Oh, by the way, Joe, a 22 caliber rifle, Marlin model 80-DL, was obtained in the search of 1006 North Bishop.
Dago's home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Daryl advised that on the night of January 23rd, he was driving around in his car with Audie Anderson, a white male, 18, and they picked up Nancy Jane Mooney, also known as Betty McDonald, a white female, and Helen Walschlager, a white female of North Windmire, in front of the Poodle Salon on Jefferson Avenue between Beckley and Zangs at about 9 p.m. The four drove across the river and got some beer. Now, this matches the description of the white car with three people waiting in it. And they saw the driver get in the car and go, or the shooter, right?
Yeah.
We're matching up here, right? So they were just driving around. They went across the river and got some beer. When coming back from across the river, they heard on the radio about a shooting on East Jefferson. Now, that's bullshit. That kind of news doesn't happen that quick and go out on the radio that quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, unless you have police scanners.
Right, which they did not.
Right. There's Scafuzas driving around drinking beer.
So Nancy Mooney wanted to go see what happened, so they drove around near the Reynolds Motor Company car lot for about 5 minutes and then left. So they had to come up with an alibi for why this car was seen near the Warren Reynolds car lot that night. That's a bullshit story if I've ever heard one. They drove around town for a while and then took Helen home around 10:30. Daryl and Audie dropped Nancy at her place at 3:30 in the morning after they had a threesome on January 24th, 1964. But this son of a bitch is so smooth, Joe. And I'm talking about Dago. He passed a polygraph examination on January 27th. And not only him, his brother, Ricky, his brother, Ernie, and Audie Anderson all took lie detector tests and were all judged to be telling the truth and released.
Wow.
So, pretty slick shit here.
So Dago's brother was also arrested for this?
They were questioned.
Questioned.
Yeah.
But I think Dago was held for. He was held for a little bit, no? For a few days or something.
Yeah, but Nancy was his alibi. Said
Right.
he was me.
Right.
But this is what it sounds like to me is they went out and got drunk. Figured that, they were going to screw with Warren Reynolds or whoever. So whoever was turning the lights off that night scared the shit out of them because it pissed them off. They didn't buy their car or whatever.
Right.
And it went wrong. And But Dago is so smooth, Joe. He can pass a lie detector test. All right, so let's watch one more video with Warren Reynolds when he was interviewed by Mark Lane. And I think this was in 1966. Okay, so a couple years after. All right, here we go. And I don't know if the bullet messed with this guy or what, but you'll see what I mean.
Okay.
He looks to be he looks very talented with his tongue, Joe. I'll just say that. Here we go. Warren Reynolds.
Mr. Reynolds, where are you employed?
At the Giant Reynolds Motor Company?
And were you working there on November 22nd, 1963?
Yes, sir.
How close is the used car lot which you worked to the scene of the Tippit killing?
1 block.
Were you there at about 1 o'clock on the 22nd?
Yes, sir.
And then what happened? What did you see? What did you hear?
Looks like
We
he's
were
looking
listening
for-
to the radio about the assassination, and we heard these shots, and we ran out on this porch, and we saw this gunman running up the street, and I followed him for a block until I lost him. And then I was going back to the used car lot, and this policeman stopped me and asked me what had happened. And I told him that I had seen this man with the gun, and I had followed him, and I lost him. So he took the description and my name and stuff like that, and while I was talking to him, some television camera was taking the pictures. And after that, I went on back to the used car lot.
Were you questioned by agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation or the United States Secret Service during November 1963?
No, I sure wasn't.
Were you questioned by FBI agents or Secret Service agents during December 1963?
No, sir.
Were you questioned by FBI agents or Secret Service agents during January 64?
Yes, sir, I was.
When was that, sir?
That was on January the 21st. 2 agents come out and they talked to me and asked me what I had seen. And I told them, and they showed me 3 pictures.
You were questioned by agents of the FBI on January 21st, 64. Then what happened?
2 days after that, as I was closing up the used car lot one night, when I went downstairs to turn off the lights, some gunman was hidden down there and he shot me. He shot me through the glasses right here, and the bullet lodged right over here.
Mr. Reynolds, who knew about your questioning by the FBI between the time that you were actually questioned by them and the time that you were shot 2 days later?
Just friends and, of course, my family.
The commission concluded on page 663 of its report that it was wild speculation for anyone to think that there might have been a connection between the fact that you were shot in January and the fact that you observed the gunman flee from the Tippit scene.
So that is part of the interview.
Rocket Queen Colleen.
Okay.
He is looking at something, and it does look like he's looking at off camera for confirmation of something, or
Looking over General Walker's D.
I don't know, but I think you're right, Colin. He's looking at something. I don't know. I, of course, don't know what it is. And I want to say one thing I had commented. James Smith said that scenario that you laid out, Rob, seems way more likely.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm a very astute speculator.
Yeah. Yes, he is a smooth scafuza. I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
So that's all I had.
So the reason we get here and connect the two, that being Warren Reynolds to General Edwin Walker, is because Warren Reynolds reached out to General Walker upon hearing the possibility that Oswald was the possible shooter at General Walker, because I believe that allegation, it came out in like early December 63, and I don't know how much attention Warren Reynolds was paying to things until he got shot in the head. But Warren Reynolds was a right winger. He liked guns. He liked, all that stuff, and highly respected General Walker and his ideals. So after he was shot in the head, he reached out to General Walker to speak to him and run ideas by him, and I guess affirm in his mind that this was somehow connected to the Kennedy assassination. And after talking to Walker and visiting in his house a couple times, many times actually, Walker was convinced that it definitely had something. And you can see in Walker's Warren Commission testimony that he believes that everything is somehow connected. And they keep trying to say, well, General Walker, you're just merely speculating at all of this. And he's like, maybe so, but this is what I believe. It had to be this way, kind of thing. So very interesting stuff, Joe. And I don't know if Warren Reynolds was a little light in the loafers, if you know what I'm saying. Apparently he had a family, or at least he had a daughter, because a couple weeks later in February of 1964, his daughter was approached walking home from school and was tried to be lured into a car. Hey, little girl, you're so pretty. Look at you. Would you like some candy? Pretty girl, you need some candy. Come on over here.
You do that so well.
Practice makes perfect, Joe. I'm just kidding.
We are kidding.
Somebody tried to lure his kid and kidnap her. And then somebody was also unscrewing his porch light bulbs at his house. So he went and bought a security system. He went and bought some guard dogs. I don't know if he put up cameras or sirens or I don't know. He put something up, floodlights. Like he went overboard and he thought that somebody was after him. And it was all tied in somehow to Oswald and the assassination and all this shit. And then got General Walker in his ears saying, yeah. Tell him it was so, and who knows? I think it was just a really bad prank that got out of hand, and it was all just a big coincidence that somehow this guy just managed to chase Oswald for a block, on November 22nd, 63, and that all this is unrelated. But then you have all these characters involved that allegedly have ties to Jack Ruby and Oswald, and they all know each other. And, you got people, it's just craziness. And Dallas is not that small of a town,
Yeah.
But that's what I got, Joe. I'll hand it over to you. We'll dive into a little bit more of what Mr. Walker, General Walker, was doing over there.
Yeah. I don't know what to think. I've gone back and forth on it. After what you just told me, I might lean towards it was not related, but obviously.
Well, come on in, Warren. Have a seat, buddy. I mean, come on. You talk to Daddy. Come on. Tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah. But obviously we weren't there and we don't know what happened. So we kind of lay it out and let our educated listeners kind of decide. So I don't know. It's crazy. I go back and forth, but thank you for that, sir. And Mr. Roger, what's up, fellas? Sorry I'm late. All good.
Lee Harold.
You have a forever late pass.
Yes. But the problem with being late is you never hear your own intro song being played. So
he could be part of the
hear that.
Yes.
Or catch it in the replay. Who cares?
Yes. Replay. Hashtag replay crew.
You're probably sick of the song. I mean, you did write it and perform it. So you're probably sick of it. But we love it.
Yes.
Yes.
I am not sick of it. It's awesome. No. So yeah, and continuing with the General Walker theme, and I didn't know any of those possible Warren Reynolds General Walker connections. So thank you for that. Let's talk about a guy who was in the employ of General Walker named William McEwen Duff. And this is actually a picture I took today from the book of Gail Nix Jackson's Pieces of the Puzzle and Anthology. And this was his mug shot when he was arrested after the alleged shooting of General Walker, which happened in April 10th of 1963. And of course, Oswald was later accredited to being that, to taking the pot shot at Walker. But to Mr. Duff, he was also referred to as Mick Duff, or Scotty. He was a figure associated with General Edward Walker in Dallas during late 1962 to early 1963. Duff arrived at General Edward Walker's Dallas residence in December 1962, claiming to be a Scottish immigrant and an admirer of Walker's ultra-conservative, anti-communist stance. He offered to work part-time for Walker's American Eagle Publishing Company, AECP, in exchange for room and board, stating he needed to study to maintain his American citizenship papers. Walker, a prominent right-wing figure who had resigned from the U.S. Army, that's a nice way of putting it, in 1961 after a controversy over distributing John Birch Society literature, accepted Mr. William Duff's offer.
Well, come on in, son.
Yes.
I got a room for you.
Well,
Right here. Right off my study.
As we know, Mr.
You're a
General.
hero, fella. I'm going to call you Scotty because you're Scottish.
Yeah, that's.
And you wear a kilt.
And we know that General Edward Walker would not have been the first person to turn away a young boy.
Young man.
Young man. He was, young man. Thank
He's
you.
clearly balding.
Yes.
Oh. But
Duff-
still a handsome fella.
He initially lived in Walker's home, but soon became unreliable, failing to perform duties for the American Eagle Publishing Company. By January 1963, Walker's secretary, Julia Necht, grew suspicious of Duff after investigating his background. She found no record of him at the British consulate in Houston, and he refused job offers from others. Additionally, Duff was engaged, this is great, Rob, to a neighbor of General Walker's daughter, Miss Whitley. But the engagement ended when it was discovered he had borrowed money from her mother and was driving various cars, including a 1957 Ford, which we'll get into in a second, Rob, raising questions about his claims of being a Scottish immigrant in the car sales trade. By March 10th, 63, Walker's associate, Robert Surrey, also far extreme right-winger, searched Duff's belongings and found a receipt for an airline ticket from San Francisco to Seattle, dated May 1962, further casting doubt on Duff's story. Surrey Secretary Necht moved Duff's belongings to the hallway and demanded he leave. Get the hell out of here, you scafuza. Duff was last seen by Miss Whitley on April 6th, 1963, just days before the assassination attempt on General Walker. And the assassination attempt was April 10th. So
he's got a really thick neck, Joe.
He does, huh?
God damn, look at that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So after the April 10th, 1963 assassination attempt on Walker, where a bullet narrowly missed him at his Dallas home, Duff became a subject. Walker's secretary, who I just mentioned, Julia Necht, and associate Robert Surrey reported their suspicions to the Dallas police, citing Duff's suspicious behavior and his presence in Walker's home shortly before the incident. A neighbor also claimed Duff had boasted to her daughter about shooting at Walker. So the DPD investigated Duff and administered a polygraph examination on June 12, 1963, at the request of Lieutenant Cunningham. The test, conducted by Detective R.D. Lewis of the Identification Bureau, aimed to determine if Duff had guilty knowledge of the shooting. The results, I'll get to there in a second. Walker, unconvinced of what they concluded, hired two private investigators, a former police officer and a former Bureau of Narcotics agent, to pursue Duff. This is when he kind of ran to Oklahoma. They engaged him in a recorded conversation during which Duff jokingly suggested he would shoot at Walker for $5,000. So they interview him. He goes, well, if you give me $5,000, aka like 50 grand, I'd do it. Walker later dismissed this as a joke and stated he would not believe Duff without an official verification. So let me get to the rest of my PowerPoint. So we got Scafusa Duff, who moves out exactly a month before the assassination attempt. And the reason he was considered a suspect was because they kicked him out, right? He had left on bad terms. He was allegedly a liar, a pathological liar. And this is what the secretary and Surrey kind of came up with. On January 24th, 64, William McEwen Duff, at Fort Sill, Oklahoma at the time, he joined the Army, interviewed as Scotty, of course, Scotland, was interviewed concerning his reported association with Oswald. They're talking about the Walker shooting here, an allegation which he denied. On this occasion, he reported employment during the period of November 62 to about April 63 in the household of General Edwin Walker. concerning Jack Ruby, because everyone asked everyone about Ruby and Oswald, every investigator. Duff stated that on January 24th, 64, that he had seen many photographs of Ruby in the newspapers, that he was positive he had never seen Ruby at any place and had no information about him. He said he never had been in Ruby's nightclub in Dallas on May 25th, 64. However, Duff laid claim to an association between Ruby and General Edwin Walker, alleging he had seen Ruby at the Walker residence. This, according to information supplied by James Cantrell, Special Agent, United States Secret Service, to Special Agent David Barry, I think of the FBI. So this is the cover page of the Polygraph, and it happened in June 12th of 63, although this document is dated New Year's Eve on 1963, which is interesting. Not quite sure what to make about that. Polygraph examination was given to William McEwen Duff upon the request of Lieutenant Cunningham to determine if he had any guilty knowledge about the shooting at General Edwin Walker's. This test was conducted at 8 p.m. on June 12, 63. Below is a list of pertinent questions. Do you have a grudge with General Walker? Duff's answer, no. Did you shoot at General Walker? No. Do you remember who you were with the night General Walker was shot at? No. Have you ever given information to anyone about the activity of General Walker or the layout of the house except the two men from Oklahoma? No. Have you owned or had in your possession a high-powered rifle since you have been in Dallas? Answer, no. Do you know who shot at General Walker? Answer, no. Lieutenant Cunningham set this appointment up and was the investigating officer. This officer had left a set of questions for Lieutenant Potts to bring with Mr. Duff to be examined. Lieutenant Potts, I guess the polygrapher, was not familiar with the case and advised there was a definite language barrier between Mr. Duff and the examiner because Mr. Duff was an immigrant. So dude has like a heavy Scottish accent here. Probably speaks
Scotty.
He probably speaks Gaelic or something, right?
Get in my belly.
Shout out Sally. We were talking about Gaelic. Taking everything into consideration, it was the opinion of this examiner that Mr. Duff was truthful on all of the above questions except question number 3. Let's go back to number 3. Number 3 was, do you remember where you were at the night General Walker was shot at? Answer, no. Due to a lapse of time between the offense and examination, this person seemed puzzled over this question, which could have caused the indication of deception, as in like he kind of didn't remember who he was with on that night. So that might have led to indication of deception. But due to this fact, this person answered the other questions with the truth. It is believed Mr. Duff was confused rather than lying. So this is what the DPD says after they do a polygraph of Mr. William Duff. So I'm going to jump ahead here to the Warren Commission hearings. Mr. Liebler is interviewing General Walker. And did they discuss with you any possible suspects that they might have had come up with, any leads they had on it as to who might have been involved? General Walker, I don't recall that they did. They may have, and I may have told them who had been in and around the house or who had worked for me. I don't recall this definitively, but the records will probably show. Do you have any records like that here, Walker? No, I don't. Did the name Lee Harvey Oswald come up in connection with this investigation in any way at that time? No, it did not. Do you know William Duff? I know who William Duff is under that name. Yes. It's an interesting way of answering that question by Walker. Liebler. In fact, he lived at your house for a while and worked for you as a Batman. Yes, Rob. Yes, that is what he calls himself. Right, Walker says.
That's what he calls General Walker Jr.
Well, a Batman is like an orderly. He used to drive him around and essentially be his bitch, is how I interpreted it.
Yeah, Kind of like Larry Crayford was to Jack Ruby.
Yes, that's a great analogy. Liebler, when did you make the acquaintance of Mr. Duff? He walked into the house late one evening and said he was out on a job and out of a place to sleep. I put him up and put him to work. The date I would have to get for you, I don't remember. Was it prior to April 10th, 63? Yes, it was. Was Duff living in your house at the time of the attack on you? No, he was not. About how long had he been gone? Can you remember? Do you have any... I'm skipping a little. Walker didn't know. Liebler finishes, do you have any evidence to indicate that he was involved in the shooting? He's saying, Walker, I also know I wouldn't believe 90% of what Duff said about anything. I have come to no conclusion, even after the investigation, that he was even involved. Knowing Duff, I felt that if the investigators were a little bit naive, they got tricked more than Duff got tricked. Liebler, but these investigators weren't able to develop anything that led to you to think that Duff had been involved in the attack on you made on April 10th, 63. Is that right? And Walker asks, led me to believe what? That Duff had been involved in the attack on you. According to his fantastic stories, it might lead to the belief that he had been involved, like my attorney says, but Duff is so fantastic that I don't believe a word he says. So, forwarding on to when Mr. William Duff kind of changed his story in May of 1964, and this is the first time he talks about Ruby visiting General Walker. So it didn't come up in his previous interviews in 63 or his polygraph in 63 either. Which is a little concerning to me, personally. James Cantrell, Special Agent, Secret Service, Oklahoma City, advised Special Agent David Barry that in an interview of William Duff on May 25th, 64, Duff had claimed evidence of an association between Jack Ruby and General Edwin Walker, Dallas, Texas. That during that period, December 62 through March 63, Duff was employed by General Walker, resided at his home. Ruby visited on the basis of about once a month, each time in the company of two identified white males arriving in a Ford car not further described. Duff claimed identification of Ruby through photographs, having heard him addressed only as Jack. The others he described as follows. 1. White male, mid-30s, 5'11" to 6 feet, weighing 145 pounds, dark receding hair, said to be a member of the John Birch Society. White male in late 40s, heavy build, dark complexion. He's not really consistent on his descriptions here. Ruby was not mid-30s or 145 pounds. And heading over to another FBI document. This is from the interview of him in Oklahoma City. A lot of the same. Mr. Duff said he had applied for a job on impulse, as one day he had passed the residence of General Walker in Dallas, a house which he had identified by the flags of the United States and Texas and Confederate flying in front of the house, along with the name of the general. He had said he had known nothing of General Walker until he had gone to Dallas. I'm just going to skip this because it's kind of redundant. Mr. Duff said that his duties at the Walker residence largely concerned looking after the personnel needs of the general, including, it says cooking, but if you look at it, must have been a typo. I just noticed that. And chauffeuring.
Personal needs of the general, including cocking. And
you can't make it up, man. You can't make it up. When photographs of Jack Ruby appeared in the newspaper...
you're going to pay the rent tonight, boy. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
And you're going to attend to the needs of this bat.
Yeah, right. You're going to earn your rent tonight. Mr. Duff described the man who he had considered. This is like, so he was interviewed by like FBI, Secret Service, a couple different people, and he's kind of inconsistent in his descriptions. White male, 40 to 50 years old, 5'8", 125 pounds, grayish white hair, wearing a business suit. Duff described this individual as being very thin in appearance. It's concerning. There's no way Jack Ruby was 125 at all. If so, then I'm 125. Mr. Duff stated that he previously had not informed of this possible association between Ruby and Walker based on his personal identification because on the occasion of his interview in January 64, he had been interviewed at the hospital at Fort Still and was more concerned about his personal welfare and physical condition than the matter which he reported. So he was kind of in, I don't want to say mental hospital, but he ended up getting divorced from his wife in 64, the one he was married to for like a few months, and getting kicked out of the military because he lied about his previous association with General Walker. So this guy, Mr. Duff, is a scafuza. So how much weight can we put in his statements, Rob?
Doesn't sound like much. But he's in the right place at the right time, like a bunch of these other scafuzas to be. And he's got a reason to shoot at the man, you know?
Right.
I mean, he kicked him out of his house. Yeah, he was giving him a free place to stay, but who knows if he was propositioned every night while he's there, you know? And then, maybe he wouldn't come off the bussy. And General Walker said, "All right, that's it. You're out." And Duff got pissed off, and one day said, "I'm gonna take this motherfucker out."
Yeah. Well, I mean, the secretary and Surrey both, they were the first. He was the first idea of the suspect, right? Not
Right.
Oswald, and that's why they ended up arresting him and then giving him a polygraph and then eventually clearing him. But that was their first thought, so it's not like they didn't have reason to think that. But yeah. Right, he made him dress up in fatigues, right?
I doubt it was fatigues. More likely a kilt.
Yeah.
Talk to me with that Scottish accent, boy.
Yeah, and Walker later said to the Warren Commission that he was later convinced it wasn't him because then of course he changed his suspect to Lee Harvey Oswald after the assassination.
I call this move the bagpipe shuffle, son. You ain't never seen nothing like this.
Did it say where it was in Scotland? No, it didn't. Bet he's a Glaswegian. I butchered that. But
who knows?
Cooked might be a comment of the night. Scott, cooked and chauffeured both mean writing.
This is true.
So,
Shabir, what's up, Jolene?
Yeah, what's up? So, I want to get into a couple people who also visited General Walker in 1963. And I know some people will be familiar with these names, Rob. I know we've talked about many of them, if not all of them before, right? First is Philippe Vidal Santiago.
Si, senor.
Yep. And I am now going to read from Someone Would Have Talked by Larry Hancock. Vidal mentioned several visits to General Walker during 1963. Walker himself had limited personal funds and had relied on his connections to right-wing organizations, in particular H.L. Hunt, who was largely responsible for funding Walker's governor campaign in Texas. There is no documented account of Vidal meeting with Hunt or Hunt's representatives. However, Hunt's behavior after the assassination suggests he may have had been concerned about somehow being implicated, possibly by previous remarks. By October 1963, Vidal and Roy Hargraves were working closely together. They lacked financing and were supposedly working at developing Cuban missions out of Nicaragua or Guatemala. Vidal traveled to Dallas and stated that he visited General Walker seeking donations. Vidal spent almost 2 weeks in Dallas from October 31st to November 11th. Upon his return, Vidal's return, he too reportedly stated that Walker had no further interest in Cuban affairs. Vidal was reportedly back in Dallas as of November 21st, 1963, still the day before the assassination, still trying to raise money and still in violation of his travel restriction.
And oh, by the way, Philippe Hemming, who sometimes can be found lurking in our comment section, named after Philippe Vidal Santiago. Allegedly.
Wow. Yeah, and Hemming's going to come up in a second, Rob. He's going to come up. You know he's going to. This is the only document that states that Vidal was visiting General Walker. And I'm going to read it. This is a FBI document, January 20th, 1964. To the Director, FBI Hoover, from the Special Agent in Charge, Miami. On November 11th, 1963, MMT1, an informant, advised that Vidal had just returned from Dallas, Texas, where he visited with General Irwin E. Walker, U.S. Army retired. Vidal saw... I'm sorry?
Irwin.
Oh, it's a typo. I was just reading. Thank you. Vidal saw Walker for the purpose of obtaining money donations and support of Vidal's anti-Castro organization. MMT1 advised it is doubtful Vidal was able to obtain any money from General Walker. Vidal currently stated that he is interested in moving from the United States to Guatemala or Nicaragua. Vidal says it is impossible for him to carry out his anti-Castro activities in the United States. He complains that the United States government hinders his efforts to overthrow communism in Cuba. So Vidal's there for almost 2 weeks, and MMT1, which I don't know if it's Hemming or not, it's might be. Maybe people figured that out and I didn't catch it. And of course, Rob, this picture, right? This is a picture found in Lee Harvey Oswald's belongings, allegedly. Always have to add that in there. Of General Walker's house with a car out in front that is believed to be a 1957 Chevrolet.
It's actually the rear of General Walker's house, not the front.
The rear. Yes, you're right. Yeah, good point. The front had the mailbox and the flags. Yes, this is the rear.
And Walker was shot through the rear of his house, not the front.
Okay.
So this photo is taken in the alleyway behind Walker's house.
Right.
Close to where he would have been shot from.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Which doesn't look good for Oswald.
No, it does not. And this is actually, I think...
and real quick, let me just go back to that photo.
Sure.
The
license plate.
Jolene says, I'm sure the CIA was involved in cutting it out. But actually, this picture was published in Jesse Curry's book in 1969 without the license plate cut out. You still couldn't read it, but maybe on the original negative, you could have possibly. So
right.
It was cut out either by the Dallas police or probably the FBI, because this photo was turned over, or at least a copy of it was turned over to the Warren Commission. But Jesse Curry had the original or access to the original, and the license plate was not cut out in his book.
You are 100% right, because this photograph from the appendix of the Warren Commission was found amongst Oswald's possessions. It was taken outside the home of General Edwin Walker, presumably by Oswald. Note the obliterated license plate to the automobile, a white 57 Chevrolet, the same make, color, and model that Colonel William Bishop told Gary Shaw was driven to take Philippe Vidal Santiago from Florida to Dallas. But as you just mentioned, Rob, when the Dallas police were questioned by the Warren Commission about the photograph of the 1957 Chevrolet, they said that there was a hole when it was found in Oswald's possessions, a hole where the license plate was, right?
Yeah.
Later, however, when retired police chief Jesse Curry wrote his book, JFK Assassination File, he included a photograph showing Walker's house and the 1957 Chevrolet with the automobile's license plate still intact. Marina Oswald had also earlier testified to the Warren Commission that when she saw the photograph, there was no hole obscuring the license plate. So, interesting. I think you're right.
That kind of means somebody at the Dallas Police Department cut this out.
I think so, or the FBI, like you mentioned, or Curry just had access to the original. So let me see what else I have. From into 64, Vidal, although had apparently been unsuccessful in raising money, Vidal entered Cuba in April 64 on a penetration mission to Cuba, where he was captured and eventually executed. Oof. So, not good for Vidal, but Vidal had met him a couple times in 1963, at least 2 that we know of.
And he wasn't supposed to be leaving Florida either at the time.
Right.
But
he had the stay in county or restricted county. That's not the exact wording, but he wasn't the only
zero folks.
Yeah,
order.
Yeah, that's true. And like he said, he's considering saying, like, screw the U.S. I'm going to go to Nicaragua or Guatemala and launch my attacks from there, right? But he wasn't the only, because we know, Rob, like the Cuban exiles and the soldiers of fortune, like Lauren Hall, who I'm going to get into next, and the extreme right wing, they all worked together, right? They all had mutual interests, right? And we talked a lot about the grift, right? General Walker did not have money. He did not. And everyone knew that he didn't. And he was kind of losing interest in the Cuban campaign, if you will, right? But I think maybe Vidal was trying to use his connections to H.L. Hunt to get funding for that. And at the same time, I'm sure a lot of the Cuban exiles didn't care about a lot of the maybe far right racism things they were on, what's the word? The civil rights drama that was going on. Like, they all had their own interests at different ranks, right?
Well, yeah, I think what he was pulling in Germany, with the propaganda, and what happened in was it Mississippi?
Yeah.
And all that craziness going on. He was not getting a pension, despite being a general, in the army. He was reduced, from being a war hero, and a general to nothing. His fun, no more paycheck, no pension. You're Dunsky, bro. So what he had to do was figure out a grift.
Exactly.
And he would go to he would do speeches for the John Birch Society, basically anybody that would pay him. He would also go on these midnight rides with Billy James Hargis, which they would go across the country and do these extreme right wing speeches and collect money that way.
Yeah, Midnight Rider Tour, or whatever they called it.
Yeah. So, and the older he got, the more kooky he got, let's say, in his beliefs. And there's many instances of that, and I was so disappointed, Joe, because Paul Trejo, who is, I think, the guy responsible for originally pointing out the discrepancies of the John T. Martin film with Walker's house in it and Oswald being on the same roll of film, is a big believer that General Walker was involved in the assassination.
Right.
And he had a website. It was like CIA did not kill JFK.com or something to that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
And it is gone. I went there yesterday to try to look for something, and I was like, where did this go? And then, it popped up, this domain is now available, whatever. And I was like, damn, man, that was,
It had some good resources there, huh?
it had a lot of good resources, a lot of General Walker's writings, a lot of his letters. Because wherever General Walker, like after he died, left all his papers, it's somewhere, one of these universities in Texas or something.
Yes. Yeah, I looked at it earlier. Yes, one of them.
Trejo went and got copies of all that shit, and it was a very good resource. And now it's sadly gone. Hopefully Paul Trejo is still alive. I don't know. I haven't seen him on Facebook in a while. I know he used to post over at the Dead Forum, but I don't know if he has recently. But I don't know.
Yeah. No, I did not know that. No, that's why you got to save everything, guys. You never know when shit's going to disappear from websites.
Yep. There was a lot of pictures there that aren't available anywhere else, and so yeah, sadly that's gone.
Well, I'll move on to Mr. Hall really quickly, Mr. Warren Hall, and this is actually part of his HSCA immunized testimony. I think this is his second one because he had two of them. In June of '77, and they asked him about his meetings with Walker. He made contact with his car salesman who eventually took us to General Walker's house. This is Warren Hall. Mr. Triplett, who was interviewing him. Now, just for the record, whatever you refer to Patrick, you're referring to General Patrick Hemming. Are you not? Mr. Hall, yes, I am. Triplett, were you present at the time when Mr. Hemming, on this January trip to Dallas, talked to Lester Logue? Yes, I was. And what was the nature of that discussion? Well, Hemming was trying to form a special army unit or a special American army unit, and I don't even remember the name of it now. Was that called Interpen? Oh, yes, that's what it was. Was the conversation similar when you visited General Walker? Yes, it was, Warren Hall says, except that we dabbed off into General Walker's problems. Were all these people that you mentioned when you visited on that January 1963 trip, Robert Morris, Lester Logue, Boats Welch, General Walker, the newspaper reporter, the Ford salesman, and anyone else you may not have mentioned? Was there anything from the conversation or the information or the context with these various people which indicated to you that any or all of them might be involved in the intelligence community? By that I mean FBI, CIA. Mr. Hall says I'll have to say no. He's a cool character there. Were you in Dallas at any time during September 63? Yes, Hall. As I recall, it was in late September 63. Did you have on occasion to that trip to visit a General Walker? Not on that trip. So here Warren Hall is visiting with Hemming, General Walker in January, but does not say, and he's visiting with all these other right-wing people in September as well, but he does not say he visited with Walker then. And also, Hemming and Hall also allegedly visited Walker in June of 63 as well, although I didn't have time to find that document. So you can see the kind of people that are visiting Walker. I feel like if you were like an extreme right winger and you were in Dallas, it was almost like customary to stop by Walker's house, right? And one last thing I had, Rob, is Jean Soutre, which is a Corsican who we have heard of before, being in Dallas in 1963. And his connection is he also met with Walker in the summer of 63. Let me bring this up. Jean-René Marie Soutre was a French military officer, a captain in the French Air Corps Commandos, a member of the Organisation Armée Secrète, OAS, a right-wing extremist group opposed to French President Charles de Gaulle's policy of granting independence to Algeria. Soutre was a deserter from the French army, convicted in June 62 and lived in exile in Spain by 63. His association with the OAS, which engaged in terrorism and assassination attempts against de Gaulle, made him a figure of interest in intelligence circles. And the thing about this guy is, and we've heard about this a lot, right? This French Corsican assassin that was in Dallas in 1963 and in November 22nd, right? This is his pictures.
Is this the same guy that got caught leaving Dallas and going to Mexico?
Yes, exactly. Yes. But is it the same guy? Because he was using a couple aliases, and I think the documentary record might have gotten mixed up a little bit. But he met with yes, exactly. So according to Bloody Treason, Soutre met with CIA's E. Howard Hunt in Madrid and also with General Edward Walker in Dallas in the spring of 63. Also met in New Orleans with anti-Castro Cubans in the assassination training camp during the same period. Operation was headquartered in Guy Benisher's office in New Orleans, which was frequented by Oswald. Same time span that the meetings between Vidal, Hargraves, Bishop, and the Texas right-wing leaders occurred.
Is that supported by anything, or does Twine just say that?
No, it is. So there is this document. And it was in March, I believe it was in March or April. This was released in 1964, and it says Jean Soutre, aka, and this is a memo from like French intelligence asking what's up with this guy. Is he here? So Jean Soutre, aka Michael Roux, R-O-U-X, I butchered that, aka Michael Mertz. So you have three names here. On March 5th, Mr. Popek advised that the French had hit the legal attaché in Paris and also the man had queried the bureau in New York City concerning subjects stating that he had been expelled from the United States at Fort Worth or Dallas 48 hours after the assassination. He was in Fort Worth on the morning of the 22nd and in Dallas in the afternoon. The French believed that he was expelled to either Mexico or Canada. In January, he received mail from a dentist named Alderson, living in Houston, Texas. Subject is believed to be identical with a captain who was a deserter from the French army and an activist in the OAS. The French are concerned because of de Gaulle's planned visit to Mexico, which I guess was happening a couple months later. They would like to know the reason for his expulsion from the U.S. and his destination. Bureau files are negative, and they are checking in Texas with the INS. So this document was sent a couple months after the assassination, or at least that's when it goes into the record. It was in March. So the FBI, of course, we talked about the documentary flow, right? You get a request, then the documents start to flow and you can follow it. This is March 13th, 64, FBI, from the director of the FBI to special agent in charge of New York, CC, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. Rebutel, which I think is just like Airtel, but the one you get back. I think rebuttal, there you go. Spelled weird. Which contained information received from WFO, which is a code for one of those cities, that a Michael Rocks entered U.S. November 1963 and departed December 6, 63 at Laredo, Texas for Mexico. Paris advised on 3/13/64, Michael Rocks referred to above has been located by French in Paris, and it has been determined that he is not identical with Jean Soutre. Discontinue investigation. So FBI is kind of saying nothing to see here.
But again, these guys are interchanging. They know each other. This Michael Mertz and Jean-Rene Soutre.
Right.
They know each other, and it's kind of like fucking with the other guy because they're both badass assassins. So they would use each other's identities just to fuck with each other.
Right. Which is why it says Juan Soutre, aka Michael Rocks, aka Michael Mertz. Right. They're all like interchanging things, and that's what makes this really hard to follow. And to be honest, Rob, I'm not even sure I know what's going on here. But I did ask Grok. Michael Mertz, 1920 to 1995, was a French resistance fighter and later a drug trafficker linked to the French Connection heroin trade. Investigative journalist and others suggest Mertz was the individual in Dallas using Soutre's identity. Mertz reportedly worked for the SDECE to infiltrate the OAS and may have been in Dallas to monitor or frame Soutre, possibly as leverage against the OAS. French journalist William Reagan argued. Michael Rocks, a separate individual, a former French Army soldier, was confirmed to have been in Fort Worth on November 22nd, 63, visiting friends, the Gotchman family. He entered the U.S. on November 19th and left for Mexico on December 6th via Laredo, Texas, without being deported. The FBI investigated Rocks and confirmed he was not Soutre, ruling him out as the expelled individual. U.S. authorities found no record of Soutre or Mertz in Dallas or Fort Worth. But luckily, friend of the show, Carmine Savastano, gave a really good description of this whole event and attached with documents. But on the evening of November 21st, the Michel Rocks guy is picked up by Gotchman to spend the entire evening with his family, and this would confirm Rocks is their former companion and not someone impersonating him. Michelle tells the Gotchmans he seeks a hotel job, blah, blah, blah. The next morning, Gotchman's son, Arnold, picks up Rocks, and they attended Arnold's college lectures until noon, and they were at a cafe for lunch when they heard of the attack on President Kennedy, and subsequently returned to the Gotchman home, listened to the radio, and watched television. Well, travel records do show a few people with the last names Rocks and Mertz traveled days following the assassination. They do not match these men often associated with nefarious claims. Despite speculations regarding a French connection, the only person substantial evidence verifies was near Dallas is Michael Rocks. Yet Rocks was never in Dallas, and without additional verifiable evidence, there is no reason to support the alibi that Mertz or Soutre were either. So this document with the French asking where this guy was might have been completely misconstrued. And because these people were using each other's aliases, they were all connected to the title of the document, right? But the only person out of these three that was in Dallas was Michel Rocks, and he was in Fort Worth, and he was with a family and had alibis. So whether you believe that or not, I don't know, but that whole French Corsican connection, I think, is somewhat bullshit. Although Soutre was meeting with General Walker earlier in the year, which is why I wanted to kind of mention him.
Yeah. Dubious at best, Joseph.
Yes. So
Let's see. I had one pinned comment from long ago from Slacker Dan. Didn't DeMore and Shield good-naturedly accuse Oswald of the Walker shooting, or was it just a rumor or a fake story? No, he did. As a matter of fact, when him and his wife went to the Oswald's apartment after the Walker shooting, he kind of jokingly said, "How could you miss him from such a short distance?" And Oswald was kind of like, he didn't really say anything back, at least according to DeMore and Shield. And that was the same night that Marina showed Jean, his wife, the rifle in the closet.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Marina complained that, look at this idiot. He's spending money on rifles and not supporting his family.
Of course, the DeMore and Shields came across a backyard photograph that they suddenly found in their possession that had written in Russian on the back of it in Cyrillic, "Hunter of fascists, ha ha ha." But Marina says that she doesn't remember writing that on the back of the photograph. Nobody knows if Oswald did. The DeMore and Shields didn't write it on the back. And the weird thing is that this picture was found 3 or 4 years after the assassination, like
a storage unit or something.
Well, they went to Haiti, remember, and they were in Haiti for a couple years.
Yep.
And they put all their shit in storage that they didn't take with them. And then when they came back, they found it in a book or something, or some place weird where you wouldn't expect to find a picture. Oh, it was in their vinyl albums, like in between some of their records.
Yeah.
And none of them remember how it got there. So was this thing just placed there randomly, or who knows? But it was a very weird thing. But yes, I believe DeMore and Shield did mention it. It was kind of joking, like, how could you miss from such a short distance?
Yeah. No,
and of course, at the Magnolia party that we were talking about, where the Oswalds met the Paynes and the DeMore and Shields were there and all that, apparently Lee was talking to this guy there that night who was, talking all kinds of mad shit about General Walker, and that he was a fascist, and somebody needs to take him out, like Hitler. He's going to be another Hitler, and he should be killed and taken out before he can do anything bad. And in that Connie Kritzberg book, Joe, I was reading in one of the chapters that she actually attended a John Birch Society meeting at the behest of one of her friends that General Walker spoke at, and allegedly Oswald was at the same meeting, sitting in the back.
Was that the one he went with Michael Payne before the Adlai Stevenson debacle?
It may have been. Of course, at that time, she had no idea who Oswald was.
Of course.
But, yeah, it's crazy. Small world.
Yeah. And I might even say that, we know DeMore and Shield and Oswald talked politics and all this stuff, a lot. And DeMore and Shield might have egged Oswald on to saying, I think he said this in one of his interviews, all you do is talk, you don't actually do anything. And I don't know if Oswald took a pot shot at Walker, but it's a much bigger chance in my book than he shot at Walker than he shot at Kennedy. But
yeah, I mean, what do they call it? The circumstantial evidence is there, with Marina says that he did. There's that letter, that says, if I get caught, here's what you do, type of thing, that was found 9 months after the fact, in one of her cookbooks or something.
Yeah.
But, it's just, the whole thing's just weird.
Yeah.
Like, can you trust how much Marina has to say? Like she would say, Oswald he cleaned his rifle, all the time. Yet, you know what? You know what they didn't find, Joe? And all of Oswald's belongings?
What?
A rifle cleaning kit or a gun cleaning kit.
Hmm.
Unless he was just using, who knows what. You know?
Yeah. And of course, then you have the witness testimonies of them seeing two people running away from the Walker scene. So if Oswald was involved, who was he with? You know, people thought it might have been, William Duff, who we talked about.
People were seen getting in a car and leaving the scene.
It's a mess. I
Yeah.
really I go back and forth on that. I really do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just some of those things. It's just like you throw up your hands like, I don't know, man. As with many aspects of this case, sir.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Joe.
Yes.
I believe that'll do us for this evening. We've ran a little late this evening. We apologize, but a lot of information to disseminate in General Walker style to everyone here tonight. We thank you so much for hanging out with us and killing it in the chat. Grab the damn dog, Joe, and I'll grab Dino.
Damn dog, come here.
Dance, fat man.
Oh.
There we go. All right, folks. Be back next Wednesday night. Members only. If you'd like to become a member, over at Operators Up. Leave next week, last Wednesday of the month.
No, there's 5 months. There's 5 Wednesdays this month.
Okay. Yeah, please check us out. Become a member. Links down below in the description.
Lies are told in the name of truth. The
Grab
greatest
some
crimes are
merch.
committed in the name of justice.
Show,
The
or
quotation is
stop.
Jim Garrison's.
If you like
It
hot
could be
shit,
used for him or against
can't
him
go
in
wrong.
this strange
It's
case.
delicious.
Good night.
Delicioso. Grab yourself some smoked maple habanero. We'll see you on Wednesday. Folks, thanks, Double B, for picking out the membership for the folks tonight. We appreciate it. As always, have a wonderful rest of your Friday evening and weekend. And we'll see you next Wednesday, folks.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.
Peace.